They have to destroy this building immediately, before these creatures can escape.
Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire, his head in the sky. Well, technically, yes, it is that same giant amphibian reptile made famous in a long-running series of Japanese monster movies. Technically, but now it's got a budget that possibly would have paid for all of the previous films combined.
Merda.
Normally we'd say, suit up, but not this time. Godzilla.
Godzilla.
This 1998 adaptation of Godzilla was the first American take on Japan's favourite big lizard, brought to you by the people who made Stargate and Independence Day, which before release was considered to be a point in this movie's favour. It's a movie that was not well received on release, making just enough money for it not to be considered a financial disaster. It likely enthralled kids of the day, but hey, so did Teletubbies, and I don't see anybody spending over $100 million on a big screen version of The Adventures of Tinky Winky.
This animal is much too big to be some kind of lost dinosaur.
Godzilla starts with a montage of lizards and nuclear testing. Oh, I wonder if this is somehow linked. The early parts of the film do crib heavily from the very first Japanese film, though at no point does Perry Mason show up to object. Something attacks and sinks a Japanese canning boat. Dr. Nick Totopoulos is researching mutations brought on by radiation when he's drafted by the US military and put in a scientific team investigating some weird stuff, like a giant footstep that's big enough to fit a fair-sized swimming pool. Though disappointingly, nobody builds a swimming pool in this movie, not even a wading pool or a jacuzzi. You might think that's a plus in a summer blockbuster, but once you've seen the entire movie, get back to me. There's also this strange French insurance agent hanging about, being all French and strange. Nick's theory, this ship was attacked by something that's completely new. In New York City, Nick's old college girlfriend Audrey is trying to get a promotion while coincidentally avoiding getting into her boss's jacuzzi. She sees her former college sweetheart Nick on the television, which gives her pangs of nostalgia, but she also sees an inn where she might be able to get the inside scoop on a big story. And then, because this is a Godzilla film, a giant reptilian amphibian something attacks New York. Nick's team is brought to New York to help deal with the crisis. Manhattan is mostly evacuated with minimal casualties, but the army isn't having much luck in dealing with this giant reptile. Mayor Ebert is either payback for Independence Day reviews or an incredibly unsubtle attempt to avoid poor reviews for this film. I wonder how that turned out.
Back off, Gene.
I could tell you all the bits and bobs, but let's just zip through this. Godzilla is hiding out somewhere in New York, and the image of Godzilla on the lam holed up in a dingy safe house is one that seems much more interesting to me than the actual movie. Great, now I see Godzilla working as a button man for the New Jersey mob, where his nickname is Big Philly Lizardo. And I just can't focus on what's happening in Godzilla. Audrey has forged some press credentials to try and get the story with her cameraman buddy Animal. When she has a reunion with Nick, all of a sudden, a giant reptile on the tear doesn't seem so important as reconnecting. Of course, she's still got to get that scoop. Nick discovers that Godzilla is pregnant and suggests the army find its nest before New York is infested with little Godzukis. However, no one seems keen on listening until Audrey's scoop is scooped by her own boss live on air.
And it's Godzilla, you moron!
Which leads to Nick being fired. You may or may not be surprised to learn that the French insurance guy from earlier on is not exactly what he seems. I mean, he is French, but he's got nothing to do with insurance. Philippe and a group of other French agents, nobly sacrificing themselves by subsisting on American food, are up to something.
You said this was French roast.
Ah oui, regardez.
Philippe takes Nick on a ride to his group's base, where he finds French agents who want to fix the problem caused by nuclear testing, namely a giant-assed monster terrorizing the city. Also, as this is an American movie, the fact that it was caused by French nuclear testing is important. I mean, French nuclear testing was a hot-button topic in the 90s, which, so we're clear, Godzilla here is never, ever caused by American nuclear anything. Right?
They said it was Godzilla.
Godzilla, as he's been named, was hiding out under Madison Square Garden, but comes up for breath just in time for the military to blast it with so much firepower that everybody thinks it's dead. But then comes the whammy. Madison Square Garden is full of giant eggs, which of course immediately hatch into dozens upon dozens of baby Godzillas who of course attack everybody on sight. And then of course, once all of the little Godzukis are killed by a bombing, Big Daddy G returns. And truth be told, he's not in the best of moods.
He looks angry.
Godzilla is a film that really wanted to be a fun ride, but ultimately ended up being something that was just so blah. For a while it gets bored with being a Godzilla movie and turns into a Jurassic Park knockoff, and then gets back to some Godzilla rating for a bit. Of course, there is a tease for a possible sequel, but mercifully there would be no direct sequel to this movie.
I don't know what they feed him, but he's growing mighty big. For a baby, I mean.
In 1996, the biggest movie of the year was Independence Day from the team of director Roland Emmerich and producer Dean Devlin. It was an effects-heavy disaster film by way of an alien invasion that mixed action, spectacle, silly but fun characters in a not wholly original but very enjoyable way. So you would think that they would be a good fit for Godzilla. But then here we are.
Let us call this creature Godzilla.
Big monsters had been big money in movies for a long time, but usually they were just a big, scary creature that had to be killed. King Kong in 1933 was a bit different in that he had a personality of sorts, and most normal viewers were sad at his ultimate fate. There were other personable giant creatures, but it would take a giant lizard across the Pacific to really melt hearts and empty wallets and destroy cities.
A prehistoric monster the Japanese call Godzilla has just walked out of Tokyo Bay.
Godzilla was born out of Japan's own experiences with nuclear nightmares. Godzilla's exact nature would vary from film to film, but originally Godzilla was an ancient giant sea creature awakened by hydrogen bomb testing.
It is my belief that Godzilla was resurrected due to the repeated experiments of H-bombs.
In 1954, Japanese studio Toho unleashed a film that would boost the kaiju genre, director Ishiro Honda's Godzilla, a film about an ancient monster awoken by hydrogen bomb testing that would show up to level Tokyo. The film was a hit, though nobody knew how much of a hit it would turn out to be. There would be many more Godzilla movies, either made with Big G being the antagonist, or the hero, where he would fight against other giant monsters, and depending on the movie, might also team up with them.
Do you really believe that?
Yes, I do.
Among them were Rodan, Ghidorah, Mothra, and then there were Godzilla films with aliens, or Godzilla facing off against King Kong, or even Mechagodzilla, which would lead to spin-offs, knockoff spin-offs, reboots, and several eras of Godzilla films. And, well, there would just be an awful lot of this stuff, all mainly featuring actors in suits fighting on dioramas of miniature cities. Now, I know this too well from my ill-fated drunken visit to Legoland while dressed as Fred Flintstone. Yabba dabba ow!
He's above us!
In the US in the 1950s, monster films as B-movies were doing good business, and wily independent distributors would import effects-heavy science fiction movies made in Asia or Eastern Europe, redub them, and maybe release them as part of a double feature. For some of these movies, distributors would occasionally insert scenes shot with American actors to make the movies seem less foreign. When Godzilla was prepared for release in the US in 1956, it became Godzilla King of Monsters, and rather than just dubbing the Japanese film, new scenes were shot starring Raymond Burr as a reporter covering the story. Raymond Burr had already mixed prestige roles in Hitchcock films with schlock. The same year that he appeared in Godzilla, he'd begin his career-defining role as television lawyer Perry Mason. Later on, Henry G. Saperstein had distributed some of Toho's Godzilla films in the US and pitched the idea of an American Godzilla film to first Toho and then some American studios. At the same time as trying to sell a Hollywood Godzilla film, Saperstein was also pitching a live-action Mr. Magoo film. But looking back, I wished they'd just combine the two into the one movie that I would never have to watch a second time.
We will put our trust in what he says.
While most studios passed on a Godzilla film, including Sony Pictures subsidiaries Columbia and TriStar, Saperstein went to the head of Sony Pictures, Peter Guber, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Yes, I will spend $150 million on a movie about a giant lizard, because at the very least, there are no spiders in this." Throughout the 1990s, scripts were worked on and various directors came and went. Jan de Bont stuck around for a while before the studio balked at his final budget.
We run into a problem.
Later, the project was offered to Stargate's director and producer team of Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, who signed on with the understanding that they do things their way. Their monster hit Independence Day came out in 1996, a film that's a favourite of mine, and I suppose the expectation was that they'd try to replicate the feel of that movie.
Some type of enormous reptile that we believe died out in the Cretaceous period.
By this time, it was clear that most of the effects would be created digitally, and truth be told, no one really wanted to spend over $100 million on a movie, only for audiences to laugh at a guy in a costume levelling a miniature city. Well, I do, but I wasn't in the room at the time. Production designer Patrick Totopoulos created a more aggressive dinosaur design based on the film's idea of an irradiated iguana turning into Godzilla.
We don't even know what the hell it is.
His reward? Having an incredibly dull lead character named after him and having his name mangled by everybody in the movie.
Dr. Nico Topopoulos. It's the Topoulos.
The look of Godzilla sends a message. The message is, please don't say this is a man in a suit. I mean, it never does actually look like a man in a suit. But if you've ever had a childish argument with the makers of this film, say over a parking space in a busy shopping mall on Christmas Eve, the most hurtful comment imaginable would be, "Oh yeah, well the dinosaur still looks like a man in a suit, pal." Devlin and Emmerich took the latest version of the screenplay and rewrote it to add their touches, such as Godzilla's nesting and reworking Godzilla's breathing fire on everyone. The thing about a Godzilla film like this, Godzilla is both the title character and the antagonist. But you also end up rooting for him destroying the city. But the destruction here isn't so comprehensive compared to Independence Day. New York isn't leveled, just bits of it, like Madison Square Garden, where, truth be told, the only people it will really inconvenience will be basketball fans and Billy Joel.
Now I'm pissed.
The film was shot in New York, Hawaii, and in Los Angeles, and would be prepped for release in 1998 with a major marketing push. The hope was that this would be the summer's biggest blockbuster. In the end, the only blocks busted were in this movie. David Arnold again provided a big score, but as it's a 1990s film, the soundtrack that people actually bought was the one with all the pop songs, including one by baby oil freak-off king Sean Combs, a song that you could at least say was slickly produced.
And there is a slow but steady stream out of the city, as if Long Island or New Jersey were any refuge.
But real talk, Godzilla doesn't have the zing of Independence Day or even Stargate, and it's just pretty ordinary. It's a film that is mostly well made, but doesn't necessarily tell a story all that well. The effects have held up well enough for a late 90s film, and oddly enough, are possibly the least embarrassing thing about this movie. There are two ways to accurately describe this film, but it depends on how old you were when you saw it. If you were 10 when you saw the movie, you might think this was a fun action movie. And if you were just a little bit older, you might think this movie is a towering achievement in mediocrity. The story itself is like this.
You're standing in it.
This happens.
I'm eating. You don't see I'm eating?
That happens.
Dinosaur loose in Manhattan.
This happens.
He's in there someplace.
That happens.
He's pregnant.
Then this.
Yeah.
One thing follows another, but it's very plodding, and the dialogue just has no life to it.
I want you to blow up Madison Square Garden.
The characters in this make the roster of goofy stereotypes in Independence Day look like fully formed creations. In Godzilla, most of the characters are incredibly dull.
That's not true. Our worm guy,
The film lacks the sort of star power that Independence Day had. Audrey's friends Lucy and Animal sound like they're from a sitcom set in New York called Brooklyn 1959 AD. Both Audrey and Nick's bosses are HR nightmares. The mayor Ebert and his assistant Jean are there to be stupid in some sort of revenge for Siskel and Ebert's reviews of Emmerich's previous films. Maria Pitillo's Audrey wants to be a big city reporter, but is wistful for her lost love, who she left to follow her dreams of being a big city reporter, and then when she's reunited with him, he's clearly so deathly dull that selling out to get her shot as a reporter seems sensible.
Whatever.
Matthew Broderick as Nick seems oddly stilted and lacking in any charm. He's playing a scientist, so of course there's that, but for somebody meant to be the main character in a summer blockbuster, he's duller than a vinyl-wrapped 1998 Toyota Camry.
Can I make you a cup of tea?
If Broderick wanted to show the world that he was more than just Ferris Bueller, well, I doubt anybody was awake long enough to notice.
We did nothing to him.
Oh, that's not true. We fed him.
And then there are lots of people who always played roles in television series, or they were in supporting roles. And in particular, we've got Simpsons voice actors Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, and Nancy Cartwright.
What's with the chewing gum?
Makes us look more American.
The only person worth watching in this is Jean Reno, playing the only character that was remotely interesting or amusing, a combination known as amused arresting.
You got a problem talking?
Well, no, sir, I'm fine.
Godzilla was released in May of 1998 with a huge promotional push and a lot of tie-in merchandise, because who doesn't need more plastic junk in their lives? While the box office numbers were solid and the film was deemed profitable, ironically, a film about a giant monster would not end up being the monster hit that the studio was expecting.
That thing is dead.
Which would put the kibosh on Sony making another Godzilla film anytime soon. I had managed to skip this for a very long time, mainly because reviews at the time of release were less glowing than a spent roadside flare. I liked Independence Day, but I saw no reason to go out of my way to go and see this. Years later, I'd hoped some distance would have helped and I'd be able to enjoy this film for the fun and spectacle. Well, it certainly made a spectacle of itself.
You don't think that's true, do you, Animal?
Yeah, pretty much.
Meanwhile, in Japan, they would keep making Godzilla films where there would be various peaks and troughs in terms of popularity of the character and the quality of the films. The tech would get better, the effects grander, but they usually retained their Japanese essence. Godzilla would return to multiplexes in 2014, and when that film did okay, you just couldn't stop them making more of the bloody things. Of course, none of those efforts would top Japanese films like Godzilla -1.
Keep it moving.
Oh, thank you very much.
Godzilla is a cool character that destroyed everything, but you couldn't help but love him. This 1998 Godzilla film destroyed everything, but you couldn't help but stop yourself from switching off this movie after about half an hour and going to watch anything else.
I think we should leave now.
I think that's a good idea.
If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.